Hey guys, so I just want to start off by apologizing to whoever ends up having to watch my video. I didn't know if it was supposed to be like a video with pictures or if it was just supposed to be our faces talking about something. So whoever it is you are, I'm sorry. You're going to be stuck looking at my face the whole time. So, the comic that I reviewed is called March Book One by John Lewis and Andrew Aiden. It's illustrated by Nat Powell. It Book one basically, or March, I should say, follows John Lewis and his, I suppose, his how he got into being involved in the civil rights movement. Um, I don't know if you know who John Lewis is. He was a congressman, or still is congressman, and he started off when he was little, living on like a really like rural area on a farm. His parents were like ultra conservative, so they like didn't place a lot of importance on education and wanted him to stay home and work. And John was he was not into that. He wanted to be educated and do more with his life. So basically, I don't want to give away like the whole book, obviously. Um, so basically, it the comic goes back and forth between John as a congressman and then John as a child, and this difference in time is illustrated based off of like the panels, how they look, the lighting, the way they're colored in. It's like you can tell when you've gone back and forth. It's actually kind of cool. So anyway, so John Lewis, like I said, is on a farm and his parents don't want him to go to school, right? So he's like, no. So he actually has to, I thought this part was kind of interesting. He had to hide from his parents so that he could run to the bus so he could go to school. And I'm like, I don't even know what that's like. Like I got forced to go to school, let alone like having to run to the bus. But anyway, so the book was published in August of 2013, and basically what the main point I think of this comic was to illustrate the struggle of the students, really, because that's kind of focuses on the students, um, on the things that they had to do to protest inequality through nonviolent means. So basically, John wanted to go to a really prestigious school that was pretty much for just white people. And he didn't get in, basically. And Martin Luther King gets involved, and they're like, hey, this isn't fair. This is how you can work toward a better future, a more fair future. And so he ends up going to a different college, and he gets involved in this group that protests this inequality. And what they do is they do sit-ins and what are those things called? The sit-ins, and they boycott. So they boycott a lot of the businesses that were like primarily like white businesses. So it really forced them to like, like we're clients too. So anyway, the whole point, like I said, of March seems to be how or the importance of gaining inequality or gaining equality through nonviolent means. So before I get into how the author really conveys this importance through this art and everything like that, um, like I said, so the book was published in 2013, and actually in 2014 it was the first graphic novel to receive the Robert F. Kennedy Book Award. So that's kind of cool. So in other words, the book was really popular. It's even though it's a comic book, which a lot of people, myself included, before this class, thought that comics were kind of just like like for kids or whatever, when clearly that's not the case. But so I thought that was kind of cool. So clearly everyone thought the book was great enough that it gave it a super awesome award that no other comic has ever gotten before. So so there was one part that I found really interesting, as far as how the backgrounds are different, which would be more like the visual and textual evidence that we're meant to provide. The panel sizes, the larger the panel, it seemed to be the more I guess the event that was taking place on that page was meant to be perceived as more important than the others. You know, so like little stuff that happened, little panels. Big important stuff, bigger panels. So and like they use a lot of different colors too. So like in one of the two panels that I thought were really cool, right on top of each other. Like so the first one was like an open kind of panel with lighter shading, but the verbiage within it was very closed. Like it was a moment when he was begging to go to school, you know. So the panel's open, but he feels trapped, which I thought was ironic. Versus the panel underneath it is it's closed panel with darker colors, but it's insinuating movement. So I thought that was really interesting how it's juxtaposed against each other like that. And then also in regards to the panels and time that McLeod mentions, um, the the there's like several panels within one page a lot of the times, and instead of it being kind of clunky like a lot of comics tend to be, it's very methodical in how it's presented. Like, you know, it's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It's all like actions within each other. You know, he gets up, he goes to school, or in this case sometimes he has to stay on the farm, or he's running to the bus and then he gets to the bus and then he gets to school. You know, it's all very um I don't know. I preferred it actually because a lot of comics that we've read, sometimes it's like super choppy, and it's kind of hard sometimes to fit the pieces together, or at least, you know, my attention goes elsewhere when I have to force myself to um, fill in those gaps. You know, I just want to read it. You know, sometimes. And then in regards to the panels being so methodical, I think in that way the reader is able to really connect with what they're seeing, feeling, everything. Because I mean, the author uses several different ways to illustrate the ethos, pathos, logos, everything. You know, so as the character is feeling something, you're able to feel something because of the way the comic is written. You're able to, I guess, feel it with them. You know, you're able to really know how they feel. And for our day and age to understand what it was like during the civil rights, I think is important. I know that I wrote in my in my um, in my analysis that yeah, the audience is connecting to the story on a deeper level because they're able to understand what the characters are feeling. I guess the desperation that they're feeling a lot as well. I mean, because it would be so hard, I think, to fight for equality when it's always met with violence and you're having to meet that with nonviolence. Like, I don't think I could do it. I think that I would be so, I don't know. I don't have the I guess the temperament for that. You know, you punch me, I'm gonna punch you back type thing. So I think that's one of the things that I learned in reading this book is the what they had to do to prepare themselves for that kind of hatred and that kind of animosity. I thought that was really interesting because it does go over that in the comic as well. Like they actually had to take classes. You know, they had to basically like torture each other mentally because they knew they were going to face that on the streets, so they had to be ready for it. So as far as like what can be learned in reading this comic, I would say a lot. You know, because like I said, our day and age, like we don't. I mean, some people, you know, I'm not going to say like everybody, like, you know, I mean, more or less, we have a certain standard of equality for everybody. You know, it's not like it was back then. At least I don't think so. So, you know, I think there's a lot of lessons to learn, like reminders, you know, like of where you've been versus, you know, making sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen in the future to other people. So I think that's one of the really big takeaways from this novel, and it really makes it worth reading. Like, you should, you know. And there's like 2 books after this one, so I'm going to probably be reading those too. But yeah, so go ahead and pick up the book. It's great. Actually, let me show you a picture of it real quick. Yeah, that didn't work as usual. Right here, this one. It's on Amazon. It's super cheap. So you should definitely pick up a copy. So yeah, it's really great.